Hey guys, Daniel here, and today I want to compare the 12-60 to my 12-35, and I want to decide which one is the better walk-around lens. So I've decided to take the lens out and see what type of shots I can get. Now I have the 12-35, and I've been using it on my GH4 for most of the time, and that lens is always on my GH4. So the reason why I bought the 12-60 is because I want the extra reach without switching to my 35-100 all the time. In the next couple of months, I'll be going to Korea, and I want to decide if this is the right lens to bring. So this first quick test is pretty much the 12-35. Right now you're seeing the 12 and I'm zooming into 35, which gets around a wide medium shot. So if your subject's pretty far away, then you might want to walk in closer to get a nice close-up shot. Now this one is the 12-60, and right away this one zooms in closer to a medium shot, and for the hell of it, I just stopped on my 35-100, so right now it's a 35, and I'll zoom into 100, which gets to pretty much a close-up. So this is a quick test. I just stood in the same spot. I switched to 12-35, 12-60, and 35-100, and see the difference between the three of them and how they would look. And if you guys are hearing some fan noise in the background, I'm using my new laptop. I just got the Dell 9560, and I just want to do tests of a full 4K edit. And this is going to be a long one, so it's a bigger project. So I just hope that it's going to be a good laptop to edit on. So we're going to start off with the 12-60. And the biggest advantage over the 12-35 on this lens is its reach. Having that extra 25mm length is very useful when you don't know what's around you and you just want to get that nice close-up shot. And throughout the daytime, in my opinion, I think this is the better one. Well, I would prefer this one to walk around with and explore around the city than the 12-35. And just, again, having that reach, like maybe a person's across the street and you probably want to get a shot of them, then the 12-60 would probably work better than the 12-35 in that case. Or maybe you're walking around and you just don't want to get too close, then having that extra focal length is so much better. And on top of that, and if you're pretty shy, I guess you'll feel more comfortable using this lens because you don't have to get as close to whatever you want to shoot. So even at 60mm, you'll be at f4.0, and even with that aperture, you can still get some blurry backgrounds. Now that leads me up to the least favorite thing of this lens is having that 4.0 aperture at 60mm. At 12mm, you'll be at 2.8, but once you turn that zoom ring, you see that 2.8 going all the way up to 4.0 quickly. So we might as well do some nighttime shots or low light, so we decided to wait until the sunset and see how this lens can perform during the sunset and after. So around sunset time, it's actually pretty good. I thought it would perform a lot more worse because of the 4.0 aperture. For the most part, up until the sunset, I've stayed around less than 800 ISO, maybe 800 at the max. Now staying out until the sun's down, the only light source we have is the lights on the streets, the lights on the building, and whatever light source we have that people use around the city. Now instantly, I have to pull up my ISO all the way up to 32 and 6400. I know for a fact that the 12-60 is not a good lens for low light, especially at nighttime. So as of now, I'm relying on the ISO heavily to get a nice exposure. Now for me, having the ISO at 3200 is probably the max I want to be at. And even with this lens, it's still underexposed for a lot of situations. Now, if you're just walking around using it for like vacation or something not too serious, then yeah, go for it. Use whatever ISO you want because you're not going to use it for work. So once nighttime hits, it's kind of hard to use this lens. I would prefer to slap on some primes, which I'll be doing for sure. And for this last shot, I had this ISO all the way up to 12,800 ISO. And you can see a lot of noise in the night sky. Now we were at a part where we barely have any lighting source. But if we're out in the streets, it would be a little bit better. I would probably be around 32 and 6400 ISO most of the time. So moving on to 12-35, which I've been using for a very long time, is also a great walk around lens. And it's very good to use when a lot of things are pretty close to you, especially when you have control of the subject you want to shoot. Now the best thing of this lens over the 12-60 is its constant aperture at 2.8. Now what this means is when I'm at 12mm, I'll be at 2.8. If I'm zoomed all the way into 35, I'll still be at 2.8. Now having this constant aperture is super easy to get nice blurry backgrounds. And in order to do so, your subject have to be fairly close to you just because the reach of 12-35 isn't too far. So a lot of times you want to be pretty close to the subject to get a nice depth of field. Now when you're walking around the city, you are going to carry your camera a lot. So having a 12-35 is lighter, so your hands won't be as tired, and it's a small lens so it can fit in your bag easier. If you really love that narrow depth of field look, then I would prefer this lens over the 12-60, especially when you're doing like product shots where it's super close and you can get a blurry background super easy. Then this is a right lens for you. So when I'm working on a project where I have control over the shots and everything, I would definitely pick this lens over the 12-60. So finally, after sunset, again, we want to test out this lens during nighttime and see how well it can perform. Right now it's at 16 ISO, and moving it up all the way to 32 ISO, it's still a little bit better, but it's still at 2.8, and it's okay at nighttime, especially at this park where we barely have any lighting. Of course, this lens would definitely do better than a 12-60 at nighttime because of the constant 2.8 aperture. For me personally, I would definitely still switch to primes after the sunset, but if you don't have any primes, the 12-35 can still perform pretty decent at nighttime. So right now it's at 3200 ISO, and quickly switching it over to 6400 ISO, it's more exposed but obviously more noise. So on the 12-35, I'm mostly on 1600 to 3200 ISO max, not so much on 64. So if you want to compare these two lenses, it's a no-brainer that the 12-35 is better at low light. So the biggest advantages over the two lenses are the 12-60 has the better focal length, and the 12-35 obviously have the constant f2.8. So my choice of lens to bring to South Korea is the 12-60. Because when I'm walking around Korea, I don't know what's going on. Things are so unexpected. I would rather have that extra reach to get that nice tight shot. And when nighttime hits, I'm going to switch to my primes, which are my 25 and 42.5 millimeters 1.7. So overall, in my opinion, the 12-60 is the better walk around lens just to walk around the city and take nice shots in the daytime. If you really like the depth of field look, definitely pick the 12-35. For work, I would definitely pick the 12-35 because I have control of the object or the subject, and I can move them around. I can easily get a nice depth of field look. So in my conclusion, I would say the 12-60 is more for vacation, walk around, casual time, and for work, definitely the 12-35. So this is probably my longest review / comparison. So if you liked it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see some more, and I'll see you guys later.